Let's also take a look at the key takeaways of this greatest of all deals between India and the United States. So Modi and Trump personal diplomacy wins. Remember, this announcement was made after the two leaders had a conversation, after which Donald Trump emphasized that how Prime Minister Modi is a great friend, and this clearly shows that the personal diplomacy between Prime Minister Modi and President Donald Trump also wins with this trade deal between India and the United States. Much delayed India-US trade deal now a reality. So remember, the talks had been going on since months, ever since Donald Trump imposed 50% tariff on India. The talks were on. There was, of course, a delay, but that has now ended, and the India-US trade deal is now a reality. Modi government's pragmatism and diplomacy win big. So it's a big win for the diplomacy, and there were many questions that were raised on the foreign policy of India, but it is also a big slap on those questions. And at the end, diplomacy has won. This trade deal has been announced after Prime Minister Modi had a conversation with Donald Trump. US under pressure from India's European Union trade deal. So that's what we were discussing, as this announcement comes just days after the mother of all deals, which is the India-EU trade deal, was signed, was announced, and now this big announcement made by Donald Trump. So US clearly was also under pressure from India's European Union trade deal. And the tariff cuts are a big boost for India's exports. As we discussed earlier, that India gains a lot from this trade deal, and these tariff cuts will be a big boost for India's exports to the US, which is also the largest consumer market. US tariffs down from 50% to 18% for India, which is also the lowest among all the neighbors. We already told you where the other tariff numbers stand at. If you talk about Pakistan, it stands at 19%, Bangladesh 20%, China 34%, and India, the tariff stands at 18%. So clearly the lowest tariff if you talk about the neighbors. Tariff on India less than competitors. As I told you earlier, that the neighboring countries have more tariff than India, with this lowering from 50% to 18%. Indian exports to be viable again in the United States. So with lower tariffs, now Indian exports will again be viable in the United States, which is the largest consumer market. After European Union, much bigger US markets open up for India. So that's also another key takeaway with this trade deal, that after the European Union, which is also a big market, now US markets have also opened up for India. And Donald Trump says India to buy $500 billion worth of US goods. So that's also a condition that has been mentioned by Donald Trump, that India now has to buy $500 billion worth of US goods. Now, it remains to be seen if this number, $500 billion, is aspirational or contractual binding. The fine print will give us more details on that. That is awaited. And much less Russian oil for India, shift to Venezuela oil likely. So that was also one of the key factors that eventually led to sealing this deal, that the dependence on Russian oil will be lowered, and India will shift its oil imports to Venezuela and the United States. So these are the factors that led to the sealing of this deal, the big announcement that was made by Donald Trump. In fact, Business Today's Sakshi Batra is also joining us with more details on this. Sakshi, what do you think is going to be the impact on the global markets with this big announcement that has been made by Donald Trump?
Well, it's going to be a spectacular session today. Look at the gift Nifty already indicating a 2.5% uptick, which actually means that the Nifty could be opening about 900 points higher. So it's going to be a bazooka of a rally in the Indian markets for sure in today's trading session. We've already seen the US markets, close positive in today's trading session as well. And now we're going to be seeing, after months of deadlock, the final deal coming in. 18% tariff down from a 50% tariff is going to be really welcomed by the export-oriented sectors. I'm going to be clearly watching out for the textile sectors, the gems and the jewelry sector, the oil and gas sector. These are the prime sectors that are going to be really performing well today. And remember, the final documentation will be taking place this week. And we are also going to be looking at a lot of reactions. Already, most of the experts in the markets are saying that this is like Diwali, something that we had been waiting for months in the markets. And that is getting a clarity now. In fact, you were rightly pointing out that the 18% tariff is much better than the emerging markets, the other emerging markets and the neighboring nations, including Pakistan. So we still stand to benefit from all the other nations by way of the deals that we will be tracking. Most of the experts believe we could see significant FDI announcements. There could be a lot foreign investors returning to the Indian market. Remember, 3.5 lakh crore rupees worth of money was seen outflowing from the Indian markets over the last 13 months, last entire year, 2025, and the month of January as well. All of that money could finally make its way back to India. So look at the kind of liquidity we are going to be awaiting for the Indian markets. This is the moment that Indian investors have been waiting for months. Therefore, there was a lack of clarity, lack of direction in the markets. Finally, we have a deal that is in place that US President and our Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi have both clarified overnight. And this comes at a time when nobody was expecting it. Right after the budget has been presented, people were disappointed that, there was nothing for them in the personal income tax slabs. There was disappointment largely that, these are only long-term visionary growth ideas, nothing for immediate term. And there you have it. After mother of all deals, this could well be the father of all deals. US and India trade deal now finally in. This was one factor that most of the experts were waiting for clarity, and the markets will take it with both hands. At this point in time, fresh FII flow, domestic buying will take markets much higher. We could see all-time high level of the Indian equity markets this week alone, and that's the indication that we're getting at.
Absolutely, Sakshi. Sakshi, do stay with us.